everything's going to work the way we expect it to. Now, this is a little bit of an ambitious production today, David, because
I can see that.
It's taking a lot out of me here. Okay, so we've got the two of us there. How are you today, David?
I'm very well, Jason. I'm just concerned about your mental health.
Yeah, that was a bit of a, I had everything set. I had everything nice and set for us. The people are going to say the audio level is a bit low. I wanted to do a nice production today, David, because, Charles Ortel is on vacation, and I wanted to bring people something special, something interesting for Sunday. Normally, you and I are doing our program, Discovery CSI. That's happening on Fridays at 1 p.m. And it's the first of the month today. I hope people can hear me all right. I can't see comments. Can you hear me all right, David?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, it seems like the volume, something just happened. It's the first of the month, David, and so sometimes there's a huge downturn in Patreon sponsorship, which, that's fine. Sometimes people have a lot of different reasons. Their credit cards change and things like that. So I wanted to bring you on to remind people that sponsoring the show is the best way that people can show these social engineers and YouTube and everything that they can't control the information that you get to see. You guys control it. The sponsors of the show control it. And David, every Friday you and I are doing Discovery CSI on patreon.com/reverse CSI storyboards and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. There's been a really stunning incident that took place on Friday on London Bridge. Do you want to give us a little background on exactly what happened there?
Yes, thank you, Jason. And I'd also like to just reference the fact that knowing that you do normally interview Charles Ortel around this time, and he has a considerable interest in the Clinton Foundation, as soon as I heard about this stabbing on London Bridge on Friday, I went through all of the connections that, amazingly, I think for Charles, perhaps and his listeners and yours, lead to the Clinton Foundation. So let me just summarize. On Friday, there was a meeting in Fishmonger's Hall, which is one of the old livery companies of London Hall. The Fishmongers, I think they're fourth in order of precedence, and they go back to the 12th century, so it's an incredibly ancient organization. And traditionally, these livery companies have been in the business with other livery companies of staging what they call mystery, miracle, or morality plays. And I believe a mystery, morality, and magical play was staged on London Bridge on Friday when someone got stabbed. Now, inside Fishmonger's Hall, there was a meeting of a number of Cambridge law graduates together with ex-prisoners. And the discussion of the meeting was about reconciliation of the prisoner community using various techniques developed maybe on social networks. Anyway, it appears that Mr. Jack Merritt left that meeting and he was tracked by an ex-con who was wearing an ankle tag, right, of the type that SERCO had been hauled before the courts but never convicted of fraud. So my question is, and I think that's a question for the people in London and in the United States, is could that tag have been used to steer the killer of Jack Merritt such that he could stage a very public assassination of Jack Merritt in front of a camera recorded by the BBC? Am I getting through to you? Because there's a bit of background noise from the traffic.
Yes, I've turned off my microphone so that the audience can focus on what you're saying, David. Please continue.
Okay. All right. So now people may not know that the Clinton Foundation, or in particular Bill Clinton, did some very dirty things in the American government during the 90s. One of them, I believe, is that he outsourced the operation of the United States National Visa Center to SERCO, which seems to be a crazy thing to do, given that SERCO, I think, will prove to be an international and very elite criminal enterprise. And then, apparently, what Clinton did is he transformed the Federal Marshal's prisoner transportation program, set up in the 1980s, to JPATS, which is the Justice Prisoner and Alien Transportation System, nicknamed Con Air, in 1994, and he gave the responsibility for running Con Air to Christine Marcy, Phil McConnell's sister. Now, Americans may think that that doesn't matter very much, but maybe they'll be interested to know that Christine Marcy went on in 1998 to take over the Small Business Administration 8A loan program with $50 billion on the loan portfolio, and a number of those companies were actually working on the Pentagon renovation project, including a company called Base One Technologies that specialized in vulnerability testing of the Pentagon renovation project, and would have been in a position to make sure during a vulnerability test that it actually went from a simulated vulnerability test to a real...
Keep going, David.
So, yeah, sure. So, in fact, what Base One Technologies, an 8A company working with SERCO as a mentor, would have been in a position to launch a man-in-the-middle attack on the Pentagon on the morning of 9/11, which I allege, as a result of the misuse of various patented devices on social networks, resulted in the death of Captain Gerald DeConto, the Pentagon's U.S. Navy Command Center duty officer on that day, and 125 of his colleagues. So Christine Marcy...
Go ahead. I'll pause you for a moment, because I want to bring you back to this issue of the London Bridge stabbing attack. I was watching a number of news reports about it, specifically on the BBC this morning, because I wanted to be ready for what we were going to discuss today, and they said a number of interesting things. I know you want to give Sunday with Charles viewers a little background on SERCO and some of the things that you and I speak about all the time, but I want to bring you sort of up to speed with today's latest news on this young lawyer who was stabbed on the bridge. First of all, I noticed a lot of the reporting on the BBC was using terminology, David, like resilience. They said several times that London is a resilient city and that the people of London will snap back from this, that there have been a lot of stabbings. They made a point of saying that the police had determined that this was terrorism. And that was important, David, because making it a determination of terrorism puts the thing into another category that immediately allows the London police to shoot the guy. He had a bomb, they said, but it was determined to be a hoax. We've heard about some other people perpetrating bomb hoaxes, David, and it was interesting to note that by classifying this thing as a bomb hoax, it puts the London police in a mode where they're allowed to shoot to kill, something London police don't usually do. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely right, and it's interesting you picked up on, and I didn't hear that, but the BBC is using the word resilience. It's because SERCO at Hawkins provides the Cabinet Office with a resilience training program where SERCO actually borrows government networks, such as a BBC network, right, and injects fake news and media plays into that network to create an impression in the public's mind that this is a terrorist attack, for example, when in fact it's very simply a criminal attack. There is a criminal organization embedded and concealed within SERCO, which is allied with the Clinton Foundation, and has been since the Clinton Foundation was formed in 1988, where the Clinton Foundation and SERCO, they have a number of tasks. One is to establish a global extortion and blackmail and entrapment network that reaches into at least 60 countries to extort concessions from government leaders, including Trump and Boris Johnson in the United Kingdom. And these...
Keep going, David.
Yeah, and this criminal organization, in fact, had its foundations, this would be my allegation, in Vancouver in 1996, which over the next 4 years, the outfit that you and I have discussed at great length, Starnet Communications, built a global, hardcore adult and child pornography trafficking network with gaming. And when that kit was all taken away, I believe Starnet was acting as a protege of SERCO, just like Base One Technologies and the Pentagon. So what you're looking at London Bridge, and you remember that there was an incident a couple of years ago, very similar, is a a staged play, right, where the public is being sent signals that are intended to mislead it and directed away from a criminal organization embedded in the Five Eyes countries and towards a virtual terrorist organization which has no existence outside cyberspace. Over to you.
Let me talk to you a little bit, David, about this Fishmonger thing. Because when they say London Bridge, I've mistakenly in the past shown London Tower Bridge. The Fishmonger Hall is right there on the water next to this sort of nondescript, unimpressive bridge. It's some distance away from London Tower Bridge, but this is one of the oldest guilds. You've spoken a lot about how the cities and guilds of London and these various ancient guilds, like the Fishmongers, you know, that's where they were having this some sort of a conference that this young lawyer, Mr. Merritt, was speaking at. He's a Cambridge graduate, which is interesting. This guy who stabbed him was in attendance at the event, but yet all the news seems to be about terrorism and, you know, what they need to do about increasing the police presence. Nobody's really talking about the fact that somebody who knows this guy Merritt killed him right after seeing him at some conference at this Fishmonger's Hall. And David, you've raised the point, it wasn't on London Tower Bridge. I'm showing London Tower Bridge right now. It was on this other, it's not a footbridge, but it's just sort of a nondescript bridge that's right next to the Fishmonger's Hall. But David, the guy at the Fishmonger lawyer conference stabbed him with a knife, gutted him like a fish. Isn't that kind of weird?
Well, it's not weird because it's entirely consistent. Now, I'm looking at a picture, and my communications facility is not very good at you, but it's a picture which has got down on the bottom left-hand side BBC News. It's a camera looking down on the bridge, showing a traffic jam that's presumably related to the murder.
Right.
On the left side and the right side, it's sort of fuzzed out. And the building over at the other side of the bridge is the Fishmonger's Hall.
Right.
Right? Now, for me, this is a classic example of a BBC blocking note where they're putting out episodes in a play, and I believe that that camera that is looking down on the bridge was in position and filming before Jack Merritt was killed. So they would have got what you call a money shot, that is to say, the guy from Fishmonger's Hall would have followed Jack Merritt out of the meeting between Cambridge graduates and, you know, law enforcement, reconciliation, all that sort of thing, and followed him out of the meeting, and I believe he was moved on an ankle bracelet to arrive in the middle of the camera shot so that the BBC would actually catch a live shot of the money, of the stabbing of Jack Merritt.
Well, there was quite a lot of reference. Sorry, David. There was quite a lot of reference to Jack Merritt, or sorry, not Jack Merritt, the stabber, having an ankle bracelet. Multiple BBC News reporters were telling us that he's been released and is being monitored with this ankle bracelet. That's very strange. That would mean that that guy's being monitored by that Jerome Lemelson patent.
And the operator of that Jerome Lemelson patent, right, which is SERCO.
Right.
Because SERCO, since, well, the original idea of tracking the prisoners was in 1983 by Tom Stacey from White's Club. But by the middle of the 90s, in 1994, SERCO and Wackenhut, the American prisoner transportation system, if you will, they had a joint venture at Doncaster Prison. And I believe in 1994, the Con Air program, controlled by Christine Marcy, and the SERCO Prisoner Escort Service had merged their technology so they could track, let's say, anyone up to 1 million prisoners around the world in real time in and out of crime scene. So what happened under the Clinton administration is they basically handed off the control of prisoner movements to a British company and its use of various patented devices like the system patented or